Welcome back. The federal government has vowed to end insecurity by 2024, adding that it recognized security challenges confronting the nation. The Minister of State for Defense, Dr. Bello Matawale, stated this in an interview on Tuesday. Well, Matawale expressed optimism that actions taken by the federal government to prevent insecurity would aid in solving the attacks by gunmen. Now, the minister further stressed that the state governors faced with insecurity dilemmas are working with the federal government to overcome the challenge. He also called on Zamfara State Governor Dauda Lawal to seek the cooperation of security agencies and the federal government to triumph in the fight against insecurity. Now, speaking extensively on this, physically with us here we have Mr. Lawal Ekundayo, a public affairs commentator. Then we have virtually Chukuma Okoro, a public affairs analyst, and Nick Agule, a chartered accountant and a public affairs analyst as well. I'm going to start off with Mr. Nick Agule. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show this morning. Now, the ex-minister of defense. Okay, so I want to start with this question. The plain statement, if you ask me, without figures, without facts, without any plans, as we have seen, what do you make of this coming out to just say that the insecurity in Nigeria is going to end in 2024? I mean, 2024 is just a few weeks ahead of us.
Thank you very much. You see, Nigerian officials, even in the way they talk, you just know that they are not taking us serious. You know, the way they talk will betray their emotions, whereby it's like they sit together and say, you know, this Nigerian, let's go and toy with them. Let's go and give them one story. You know, anytime we give them a story, they are very happy. And they just go and give a story, knowing fully well that there is nothing behind that story that they are giving. Because this kind of story, you know, does not make any meaning. Because there is no country that has ended insecurity. There is none. If you go to the United States, with the biggest army in the world and biggest police and all of that, there's insecurity there. There's insecurity in the UK, there's insecurity in Germany, in France, everywhere. What the governments in those countries do is two things. One, they deploy intelligence-led security architecture where they dictate acts of insecurity way before they are perpetrated. That is one side. On the other side, they now have a swift response system such that if that insecurity should happen, then the security agencies will respond so quickly as to give very little or minimal chance to those who have perpetrated it of escaping without being arrested or killed, depending on the option that they choose. So when you see this kind of headline that insecurity will end in 2024, you just know that either this guy is totally uninformed, which I don't think so, or he just puts out a statement to Nigerians knowing fully well that there is nothing backing up that statement. And Nigeria has continued to spend the highest proportion of our budget on insecurity. So Nigeria has been in this quandary whereby for many years, probably since the advent of this very current democratic dispensation, we chose to buy bullets and guns to kill Nigerians instead of educating them, instead of providing health care for them, instead of providing transportation, you know, electricity, water, and all of that. Because, look, when we make a budget to buy arms and ammunition, it's mostly Nigerians that are going to be killed. Because those perpetrating insecurity are Nigerians. So we have a nation that prefers to kill the citizens instead of providing them with the essential services
Yeah.
of education, healthcare, and all of that.
All right.
So I'm totally taken aback by this
Okay.
statement by the Minister of
All right.
Finance
All right. Thank you
because it
so
doesn't
much.
make any meaning.
All right, now we have Mr. Chukwuma Okoro online, and then Mr. Nick said that no nation has stopped the insecurity issues in their country. He mentioned the UK and among other countries. But then Bello Matawale has come out to say that, you know what, insecurity in Nigeria is going to end in 2024. What's your reaction to that?
Good morning. Good morning, Imma. Good morning, Nick. Good to see you again. It's been a while. And to our viewers all over the world. Imma, you see, it's like Nick took it from my mouth that our leaders take us as very unserious people. And of course, that is what we are, because if we are serious people, we will certainly ask questions. You know, I always talk about people who come out to make headlines and sound bites and give it to journalists so that it will look as if they have said one thing, you know, to make the people feel happy. And it is more painful coming from somebody like Bello Matawale, who is the immediate past governor of Zamfara State, a state that was ravaged by insecurity for the duration of his first term governorship. For the 4 years he was governor, that state was ravaged by insecurity, banditry from start to finish. He didn't do anything. And it is so disappointing that he failed an election. His people rejected him. The president rewarded him with a ministerial position. Worst of all, Deputy Minister of State, Minister of State for Insecurity, for Defense, from a state that banditry destroyed the economy of the state. Thousands of people were killed. Houses were razed. Kidnapping for ransom by bandits became a very thriving industry. And our president picked the governor of that state who couldn't do anything and made him Deputy Minister of Defense. It is not as if the Minister of Defense fared better. Both of them are the same. And now this person comes to tell us that within 1 year that Nigeria is going to fight and remove insecurity in our landscape, in our environment. It is impossible. And like Nick said, no country has succeeded in fighting insecurity to the point that there is no more insecurity in the land. The most you can do is to reduce it to the barest minimum. And it gives me the impression that the minister doesn't know what insecurity is. But I expected him also to tell Nigerians the measures that have put in place to fight the insecurity. He didn't say that, and Nigerians, the journalists he spoke to, didn't ask questions. That is how we behave. We just move on, we don't ask questions. Now, let me break it down. Insecurity, you don't fight insecurity with guns and ammunition. No. You have to look at the root cause of insecurity. What is causing insecurity in the Northeast is different from what is causing insecurity in the Northwest, different from what is causing insecurity in the North Central, South-South, Southeast, and Southwest. So what do? Look at the root cause, which we call the maximalist approach in security, peace and security studies. Incidentally, that's my area, peace and security studies. Look at the root cause, take it out, and you do away with insecurity. In the Northeast, what causes insecurity? A group of people, Boko Haram, said, look, we want to carve out an Islamic state. What did they do? They looked at some elements and radicalized them. What the only way to do that is to de-radicalize those elements and let them understand that, look, what they are doing doesn't solve any problem, and that is not going to happen. At a point, Borno State, they had 3 local governments were taken and they hoisted their flag with ISWAP, Islamic State of West Africa, in conjunction with the national ISIS, the international ISIS. They hoisted their flag. It took the efforts of General Buhari to drive them back. drive them away. But even as we speak, that problem persists. Now, come to the northwest. What is the cause? Banditry. If you look at banditry, kidnapping for ransom, you can relate that with poverty. So you don't buy guns and ammunition. What you do is to look for a way to empower the recruits, people that are recruited easily into banditry. And what causes that banditry? They first started with solid minerals by stealing it, and then it turned to banditry. You look for a way to do that, not just buying arms and ammunition. What causes banditry or insecurity in the middle belt, in the north central, is what? That the Fulani headsmen are looking for land, for grazing land, and what do? They want to drive out the natives. And the natives have said no. For the 8 years that Buhari was president, he didn't do anything. What did Femi Adesina tell us? If you don't want to be killed, give your lands. Where does it happen in the 21st century that the government will come and ask you, if you don't want to be killed, give your land? What causes insecurity in the southeast? Because the southeasterner feels that he's been depraved politically. He's been locked out, shut out of the leadership of the system, of the country. For 8 years, that was what happened. Recall that Nnamdi Kanu didn't start off as an IPOB apologist. By 2013-14, Nnamdi was saying, let us restructure Nigeria and make it better, so that everybody will find a living space. But it was when Buhari started sidelining the southeast that Nnamdi and his apologists and started saying, oh, okay, if you don't want us to be part of it, then let us go. That was what gave rise to the IPOB agitation. So if you look at it in terms of poverty is not essentially the cause of insecurity in the southeast. So because if you look at the multidimensional poverty level in Nigeria, southeast is the least. They are not poor.
All right.
So poverty is not a problem of insecurity. And if you go to southwest, it's a different ballgame. The struggle for land by headers, between headers and farmers. And south-south, what is the cause of insecurity in the south-south? Because the people feel that they are the goods that lays the golden egg, and they are not getting their due from the oil resources. And that is why the region is restive. So you look at these things holistically, and the minister who couldn't even solve a single problem of insecurity in his state is coming out to give us sound bites that within 1 year.
Okay.
That we are going to deal with insecurity. It's insulting. It's actually insulting to Nigerians.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Okoro, for that reaction. Now, I'll come to you, Mr. Lawal. Ex-Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, sometime in February, noted that the Nigerian Army was overstretched in terms of his personnel because of many international operations they were involved in, right? To put a perspective, the former Chief of Defense staff, right, stated back in 2021 and that the Army was engaged in security operations in all the 36 states, including the FCT. And at this point, the question one now asks is, what strategy does the current Minister of Defense, that's Matawali now, have to solve insecurity?
Okay.
From what he said yesterday.
First, that House of Assembly supposed to summon him for that statement.
Why so?
Yes, now, because you are saying it publicly that your office will stop insecurity in a year. You get, and there's no plan. They should summon him and thoroughly question him about his plan, because he's going to submit budget. They have submitted budget. Maybe in that budget they have inflated it so high. You get it, and then you are now making a statement. Now that statement in collaboration with your budget, you need to come and answer for it. That what strategy, so that we will know that it is coming from your mouth. You are not just saying it out of a context. You are saying it basically because that is what you want to do. So that you now let the Nigerians or the people who represent the Nigerians to see that you are serious about this thing. Okay. They are supposed to take action on this thing.
But you know,
second, I have said it over and over again. That's why you are hearing something like the army is overstretched, the army is engaged in international something, the army is, of course their work is to protect the Nigerian borders, not to come in and begin to do all this bombing and do all this stuff. That's why you see them doing, because that's what they do outside. You get it? They bomb, they kill, they stuff. But when it comes to the inside, we have special police, we have special military units, we have, you get it? They're supposed to handle this area and do it effectively because it's an internal issue. Okay. Now, the policing, which I keep saying, is because the local government and the state are made redundant in security. The governor does not command the police of his state. The local government does not command the DPO of his local government.
So in other words,
that means he's going to fold his hand. What is he going to do? If he calls the commissioner that something is happening and the commissioner refuses to listen to him, what is he going to do? You get it? He's not going to do anything. And if they declare that there's an issue, maybe the commissioner is a perpetrator of part of the insecurity, and the IG likes the commissioner, you get, what would the governor do? The IG will simply withdraw the commissioner and post him elsewhere, and that is the end of the corruption the commissioner has done.
Let me quickly just hold you on that. The Minister of Defense came out to say what he said yesterday. Right. In defense to his statement, don't you think his office have a laid down plan that they have to follow for him to have made that statement? And he's not coming out to say it in public because of security reasons.
Now, the first thing is that to let you know that he has no plan. Like what the two speakers have said, he has no plan. I can say it categorically.
You're just assuming it because he's not coming out to say.
I'm not assuming.
He's not coming out to say it.
Statement, let me give you a good example. He said he's going to stop. The word stop underlined. You get what I'm saying? He said he's going to stop insecurity. Underline that word. And everybody is saying that it's not possible to stop the insecurity in a country. You get it? Because even ordinary youths can pose insecurity. You get it? For example, if there's some kind of children, I mean, all these youth that juvenile that gather in some area, and they are into smoking of India hemp, that is insecurity now. You have to do something about it before it blows into something serious, before they begin to form gang and begin to join court. You have to come into that quickly. That is insecurity. It's the duty of the local areas to handle those ones. It's not the federal government that will come down and do those, because all these things comes from these areas. From minor things like you see these children gathering together, you don't empower them. Those who are supposed to go to school, they cannot afford to go to school because it's expensive. Those who are supposed to learn work, they cannot learn it. Those who have finished work, they are not empowered. You now see them gathering together, beginning to talk about their problems, and you now see somebody taking advantage of that situation to lure them into it. Now you are talking about a scamming. How did they get into scamming? You see, a professional scammer will be telling the people that, see, we are the one empowering the youth. What is government giving them? They have no job. We provide job for them. What are you going to say? They've said it to me many times. You get?
Yeah.
That I said, this thing is that they will tell you that, see, we provide job for them.
Okay.
What has federal government provided for them? They are jobless. So what are you going to say about that? Now, it is not the federal government that will now come down and say, I want to be given like the one we discussed earlier with this other guy, traders money. Yeah, it's not the duty of federal government now. Money. What do you know about those areas? What do you know that is going on in local government? It is the duty, you get it, of the local government and the sub-local government units, such as the CDAs and the landlord and resident association of each area to do those things. So if you empower them, they'll be able to handle those so that the thing doesn't blow. So the government will only deal with those serious big issues, while the minor ones will be taken care of by the local government and the subunits of the local government. But now you render local government ineffective. You render the state government ineffective. You now be making order from Abuja down to a state. Oh, there is this, when you go there, see, before this thing blew into a state, like what the speaker said,
Yeah.
it started from something so small. Like what he said, the youths in Niger Delta or the South, they are agitating that they are marginalized. They provide the resources and their land is destroyed. They use the land for farming. They use their water for agriculture. The oil has destroyed everything. Now, what are we going to do? That's when you see them going into insecurity, because now their lively state and what they use for their economy is being ruined by what the government is doing.
All right.
So that is why, see, if the government wants to be serious about fighting insecurity, go this resource control. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
You need to take it seriously.
But you know, the government actually has, I mean, this question is directed to Mr. Nick Agule right now. To be fair on the government, the main budget of 2023 was, of course, 21.83 trillion naira. And then the defense and security sectors were allocated 2.98 trillion naira, or let's just say 13.4% of the 2023 main budget. And then in November 2023, we know that the supplementary budget came out and 2.97 trillion naira was proposed by the President Tinubu. He proposed that 476.543 billion naira was for defense. With a lot of figures that we are seeing, a lot of figures that have been put into trying to tackle the insecurity in Nigeria, with all these monies being mentioned, why are we still facing so much insecurity in the country? That's one. And do you think that, like Mr. Lawal mentioned something, he said that he's scared of a lot of figures being mentioned to tackle the insecurity issues in Nigeria, and maybe at the end of the day, these figures, these monies will not be used appropriately for the main reason. What's your take on that, Mr. Nick Agule?
First and foremost, before I comment on the budget, let me inform all our viewers that Nigeria's budget, as currently before the National Assembly, is already imperiled before it is passed. And the reason is that the 21 trillion that you speak about as the budgetary provision for 2024 was predicated on oil price of $77, which as of today, oil is selling near $80, that's fine. But it was also predicated on...
I think we're having a network glitch there. Can you hear us?
...of crude oil per 1.38.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Please go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
go
can.
ahead.
Yes. So the budget, this budget we're talking about now, we're currently producing 1.3. Even our OPEC quota is 1.38. The question is that, where is the government going to manufacture 400,000 barrels of crude oil every day between the way, and we will now start January with 1.7 million barrels of production. So this all comes down to the same thing that we're talking about here. The people we have in government just go and give us numbers, because they know, if we say 1.7 million barrels of crude oil, Nigeria will be happy. Oh, wow. What is behind? Can this government show proof of what will happen, that by 1st of January, when this budget will commence, that Nigeria production will shoot up from 1.3 as of today to 1.7. There is nothing of such on the table. Now, coming to the budget itself, 21 trillion is, by today's money, that is 21 billion. It's no money. 21 billion for $21 billion for 200 million people. This is a budget for local councils elsewhere. You understand? And people can say, oh, the councils there are spending in dollars and all that. We too are spending in dollars, because this is security we're talking about, the security budget we're talking about. We don't manufacture security equipment here in Nigeria, we must go abroad to go and buy. So we are going to the same place, the UK, the US, and every other person goes to buy security equipment. And they are budgeting in trillions of dollars. We are budgeting in just 21 billion. And it's no money at all. And that is why year in, year out, we come out being poor. Because the monies that Nigeria is generating as a country is just too small. And the reason why the money is too small is that we have refused to allow the economy to develop. An economy where electricity supply is 3,000 megawatts to 200 million people, which somewhere like the United Arab Emirates, where the president just came back from, is supplying to 1 million people. Electricity UA is supplying to 1 million people. We are supplying it to over 200 million people. The lack of electricity is a need on the neck of Nigeria's economy. The lack of that lack of electricity results in lack of local production. And the lack of local production is a need on the economy. And that lack of local production results in unemployment, massive unemployment, which is a need on the economy. And that massive employment then means Nigeria cannot have the money to access basic things like healthcare, education, and all of that for themselves and for their families, a need on our neck. And then we are not refining our crude here in Nigeria, a need on the economy, which has caused all the foreign exchange crisis that we are now buying dollar at over 1,000, 1,100, 1,200. All these things is where government's budget should be going to. But you carry the money, like you talk about the defense budgets are approximately 3 trillion. How much have we budgeted for education? How much have we budgeted for healthcare? It's probably like 1 trillion. So even as much as it's not big, but it is the biggest allocation in our budget. And like I said, how can you, as a serious nation, be budgeting to kill your citizens more than budgeting to provide them education and healthcare? If the economy booms and people are in jobs, they will not, insecurity will disappear on its own, because as we speak today, the young men and women who are working in banks, in telecoms, in the oil industry, they are at work. They are not available for insecurity. So first, develop the economy to take these people off the street into work.
All right.
And insecurity will just disappear.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you so very much, Mr. Nick. This question will be going right now to Mr. Okoro. Now, President Tinubu proposed 78 billion naira for defense. And then in 10 days' time, the National Assembly will pass this bill. Against the background of the Minister of Defense lamenting that the 78 billion naira allocated to defense is too small for personnel and overhead costs. Now, in the face of his lamentation, how did you think Mr. Matawale came up with this information that in 2024, insecurity will end? Mr. Okoro, this question is for you.
That is just to tell you that the man doesn't know he's confused. He doesn't know what he's saying. And I'm surprised that he's still I said it earlier. I even questioned his eligibility for that position of Minister of State for Defense. He was governor for 4 years, and his state was ravaged by insecurity for 4 good years. At a point, the boys almost drove him out of the state. And we turn around to make the same person that couldn't solve a problem as Minister of State for Defense. What does it tell you about the people we are? Right from the presidency to the least person that is even supporting the Minister of State. He doesn't know, nothing will happen. He is not going to do anything. And I say it again, fighting insecurity does not end in gun and ammunition. It doesn't end that way. That is not the way to solve insecurity. Yes, I appreciate the fact that you need to arm soldiers, you need to arm policemen, the defense agencies like the DSS, NIA, all those agencies that are related to fighting insecurity. You need to train and arm them. But going out to buy helicopters, to buy assault rifles, just to go and kill your people doesn't solve the problem, because the system produces itself. The more you kill, the more others are radicalized. So what do? You look at the specific areas of interest. What is causing insecurity, like in the Northeast, like I said. People wanted an Islamic state. And if we always try to relate poverty to insecurity, I don't always agree, because if we look at Farouk Mutalab, the guy that wanted to blow up the United Airlines that en route Detroit from Amsterdam.
Yeah.
His father was a very wealthy man, former chairman of First Bank. He'd been to Yemen, he'd been to in fact, he was in Saudi Arabia where he went to school. From there, he went to Yemen. That is where he was radicalized. He wasn't poor. He could afford the best things in life. But he tried to kill himself and blow up an airline. Why? Because he had been radicalized. So what do? Look for a means to de-radicalize those people. If you want to fight insecurity in the middle, in the north central, you don't go about killing people. Look for a way. What is the cause? Headers want land. The people don't have land to give because it's their ancestral land, it's their ancestral home. You can't drive them away. So what do? You resort to ranching. In the 21st century, people are still carrying cow from one end of the country to the other, looking for fertile land. Meanwhile, Qatar is a desert country, and they produce what they eat. By what? By irrigation. The whole of Middle East is desert area, desert land. But they do irrigation, and they produce what they eat. Look at Lake Chad. We are looking at Lake Chad drying up. We don't do anything about it. And we send people down to come and take other people's land. It doesn't work that way. You don't fight insecurity. If you kill everybody there, and the last person that is left will fight back, the system will simply reproduce itself. Look at the Southeast. Nnamdi Kanu is still in jail. Meanwhile, people who committed worse crimes have been given amnesty, reintegrated into our national institutions like the Army and DSS. People who were caught killing fellow Nigerians have been granted amnesty, trained and put into the military. And yet you are keeping somebody who was just raising a flag and said, I want to leave. In South-South, what have you done in the South-South to show up the production level of oil? You've not done anything.
Well,
the swampy area, people's farmland have been destroyed, and you are budgeting 78 billion naira to do what? You cannot clean up Ogoni land. We keep going back and forth. Shell releases money, federal government releases money, the money is nowhere to be seen.
Well,
NDDC has done nothing, and you think you can fight insecurity that way? It doesn't work. So let's get to the root cause of the problem.
Yeah.
Minister, get to the root cause of the problem.
Okay. Well, the need to tackle insecurity in Nigeria cannot be overemphasized, but we're hopeful that it's going to be reduced to the barest minimum. Thank you so much, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro. Up next on VOP this morning, this is more like a warning for some of you planning to Jaba. Please keep staying with us, Mr. Chukwuma Okoro and Mr. Nick Agule, because we'll love to have you on our show to tackle the next topic of this morning. This is a warning for some of you that are planning to Jaba. Details in a moment.